The night was dark and heavy clouds covered the sky. The small town slept quietly, but one boy was still outside. His name was Ethan, a 16-year-old human teenager. He walked alone on the narrow road, his old jacket pulled tight against the cold wind. His shoes were worn out, but he kept moving. In his hand, he carried a small bag with medicine for his sick mother. Ethan's life had never been easy. His father had died when he was young, and his mother worked hard until illness weakened her. Now, Ethan was the one who took care of her. Every evening after school, he did small jobs, earned little money, and bought whatever medicine he could afford. Tonight was no different, or so he thought. But fate had already prepared something that would change his life forever. As he walked past the dark forest, a strange light flashed in the distance. At first, Ethan thought it was lightning, but then he heard a loud crash, like metal tearing apart. The ground shook under his feet, and birds flew from the trees in panic. Ethan stopped, his heart beating fast. Something unusual had just fallen from the sky. Curiosity pulled him forward. He moved off the road and into the forest, his breath visible in the cold night air. The deeper he went, the brighter the glow became. Soon he saw a strange silver vehicle lying broken among the trees. It was not a car, not a plane, but something otherworldly. Its surface shined like liquid metal, glowing faintly with blue lines. Smoke rose from cracks in its body, and the air smelled of burning wires. Ethan froze. His eyes widened in shock. "What is this?" he whispered. He had seen spaceships only in movies, but now one was right in front of him. Suddenly, a weak cry came from inside. It was not the sound of a machine, but the voice of a living being. Ethan's fear mixed with concern. Without thinking, he rushed forward. The door of the strange craft was half broken, sparks flying from its edges. He pulled it open with all his strength, the metal burning hot against his hands. Inside, he saw her. A woman, not exactly human. Her skin glowed faintly, pale silver with a soft shimmer, and her long hair floated as if touched by invisible wind. She wore clothes made of shining fabric, unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. But what caught his eyes most was her condition. She was pregnant, and she was in pain. Her breathing was shallow, and her hands pressed against her stomach as if protecting the life inside. She turned her glowing eyes toward Ethan, and for a moment he felt as if he was staring into the depth of the stars. Her lips moved, her voice trembling. "Help me!" Ethan's fear melted away. He was only a teenager, but his heart was brave. He climbed inside, ignoring the heat and smoke. The woman was trapped under broken metal. He pushed, pulled, and finally lifted the heavy piece away. His arms ached, his palms burned, but he did not stop. "Come on, you can't stay here," he said firmly, though his voice shook. He helped her sit up, his hands supporting her back. She was heavier than she looked, and Ethan could feel her trembling. Behind them, sparks grew into small flames. The wrecked ship was unstable and could explode any moment. Ethan's mind raced. He had no time to think about who she was or where she came from. He only knew one thing: he had to save her. Step by step, he pulled her out of the wreckage. The cold wind hit them as they came into the open forest. The woman gasped, clutching her stomach. Ethan held her tightly, guiding her away from the burning craft. Just then, the wreck gave a final scream of twisted metal and exploded in a shower of fire and light. The trees shook, and Ethan threw himself over her to shield her body. Sparks rained around them, but he did not let go. His heart pounded, his breath came fast, but he stayed firm. When the explosion ended, silence returned to the forest. The wreck was gone, only flames lighting the darkness. Ethan slowly lifted his head, checking the woman. She was weak, but alive. Her glowing eyes looked at him with something like surprise. For a moment, neither spoke. Ethan swallowed hard. "You're safe now," he said softly, though deep inside he was filled with questions. Who was she? Why had her ship crashed? Why was she on Earth? And most of all, why did she look at him as if she already knew he was the one meant to find her? The woman closed her eyes, whispering words Ethan barely understood. "Thank you, human." And with that, she fainted in his arms. Ethan held her tightly, his heart racing. He was just a boy, poor and ordinary, but now he carried a secret stranger, glowing with alien light and carrying a child. He looked back at the burning ruins of the ship, then at the silent road beyond the trees. He had no idea what was coming, but he knew one thing for sure: his life would never be the same again. Ethan's arms trembled as he carried the strange woman out of the forest. The smell of smoke still hung in the air, and behind them, the wreck burned like a dying star. The woman was unconscious, her silver skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. Ethan had never seen anything so unreal. He pushed open the old wooden door of an abandoned barn at the edge of the road. Dust floated in the air as he laid her gently on a pile of dry hay. His heart still raced, his hands still shook. He stared at her, trying to believe what he was seeing. An alien. And she's pregnant, he whispered to himself. What in the world am I supposed to do now? The woman stirred. Slowly, her eyes opened. They were bright, not like human eyes, but filled with shimmering light, as if galaxies lived inside them. She looked weak, her breathing uneven, but her gaze was sharp enough to hold Ethan frozen. "You saved me," she whispered. Her voice was soft, like music carried on the wind. Ethan nodded, unsure if she could even understand him. I couldn't just leave you there." She tried to sit up, clutching her stomach. Pain twisted her face, but she forced herself upright. Her hands glowed faintly when they touched her belly, as if she was protecting the child with energy Ethan couldn't understand. "I must survive," she said slowly. "For him, for my child." Ethan hesitated, then finally asked the question that had been clawing at his mind. "Who are you?" The woman looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust him. Then, in a voice filled with both pride and sorrow, she answered, "My name is Lady Seraphina, wife of Lord Valian, master of the Orion Trade Empire." Ethan blinked, confused. He had no idea what those words meant, but he understood one thing clearly. She was important. "Very important," she continued, her voice weak but determined. "My husband. He is powerful, wealthy beyond your imagination. But with great power comes danger. Rivals, hunters, enemies. They want what I carry." Her hand pressed harder against her stomach. "The child of Valian, heir to his empire. They will kill me to stop his bloodline from growing." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He was just a boy from a small town, struggling to keep his mother alive. And now he was caught in the middle of some galactic war. "You mean? Someone tried to kill you?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Bounty hunters. They tracked my ship. They will not stop. They know I crashed here. They will come." Ethan stood up and paced the barn nervously. "Then we can't stay here. They'll find us." Seraphina looked at him with tired but steady eyes. "You are only a child. You should run. Leave me. Save yourself." Her words stung. Ethan clenched his fists. He remembered his sick mother waiting at home. He could walk away, pretend none of this ever happened. But when he looked at Seraphina, weak and trembling, holding her unborn child, something inside him refused to leave. "No," he said firmly. "I'm not leaving you. If they come, I'll find a way to keep you safe." Seraphina blinked in surprise. No human had ever spoken to her like that, not with greed, not with fear, but with simple courage. For the first time in her life, someone who had nothing still stood for her without expecting anything in return. Before Ethan could say more, a sharp sound cut through the night. A distant hum, low but growing louder. Seraphine's eyes widened. "They are here," she whispered. Ethan ran to the broken barn window and looked out. In the distance, through the trees, he saw glowing red lights moving slowly, scanning the ground. Drones in like anything from Earth. His heart thudded against his ribs. "Hunters?" he asked. Serafina nodded. "Yes, they will not stop until they find me." Ethan's mind raced. He had no weapons, no advanced tools, nothing. But he had one advantage. The hunters did not understand Earth the way he did. He turned back to her. "Stay hidden. I'll distract them." Seraphine's glowing hand reached out, grabbing his wrist. "You'll die." Ethan swallowed hard, but didn't pull away. "Maybe, but I can't just sit here while they take you. I've lost enough in my life. I'm not losing you too." For a moment, the barn filled with silence, only broken by the growing hum outside. Serafina stared at him, her eyes shining not just with alien light, but with something human hope. "Perhaps," she whispered, "the universe sent you for this moment." Ethan pulled free, grabbed an old hunting rifle from the barn. Wallet hadn't been used in years, but it was all he had. He took a deep breath, his legs shaking, but his resolve firm. Outside, red lights cut through the fog. Metal footsteps crunched on dead leaves. Alien hunters in dark armor scanned the ground. Speaking in strange, clicking voices inside the barn, Serafina closed her eyes and pressed her hand against her stomach. For her unborn child, she had to survive. For the first time, she believed she might, and outside, Ethan stepped into the shadows, ready to face enemies from the stars with nothing but his courage and an old gun. The night grew colder, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. Ethan crouched low behind a fallen log, his grip tight around the rusty hunting rifle. His heart pounded so loud he feared the hunters might hear it. Red scanning lights moved across the trees, sweeping slowly, searching for Serafina. The alien hunters were tall, covered in black armor that shimmered like liquid stone. Their helmets glowed with faint symbols, and their weapons hummed with a deadly blue energy. Drones floated above them, buzzing softly like insects from another world. Ethan had never seen anything so terrifying. Yet he stood his ground, inside the barn. Serafina pressed her glowing hands against her stomach, whispering words in her alien tongue. She could feel the hunters drawing closer. But what struck her most was the boy outside, risking everything for her. Ethan took a slow breath. "Think, Ethan, think," he muttered under his breath. He knew one thing. He couldn't defeat them in a fair fight. But he also knew the forest better than anyone. Hunters might have advanced technology, but this was his home. One of the drones passed overhead, its red light shining near his hiding spot. Ethan froze, holding his breath until it moved on. He then grabbed a rock and tossed it deep into the trees. The sound cracked through the silence. Immediately, two hunters turned, their glowing eyes following the noise. "Good," Ethan whispered. He slipped away in the opposite direction, drawing them further from the barn. But the hunters were not fools. One of them raised a clawed hand, and the drone shifted course, scanning the ground. Suddenly, the red beam fell on Ethan's jacket. A sharp, metallic screech cut through the night. The hunters shouted in their clicking language, and beams of blue energy tore through the trees, scorching bark and splintering wood. Ethan ducked and rolled, the blasts missing him by inches. The ground smoked where the beams struck. Fear clawed at his chest, but he kept moving. He ran deeper into the forest, zigzagging through trees, trying to stay one step ahead. His lungs burned, but he refused to stop. Behind him, the hunters gave chase, their footsteps heavy, their voices cold. Ethan stumbled upon an old trap his father had once built for hunting deer. a crude pit hidden under leaves. He crouched, picking up a fallen branch, and snapped it loudly. Then he sprinted past the trap. The sound drew one hunter straight into the pit. The armored alien crashed through the weak cover and fell, his heavy body slamming into the bottom. The ground shook with the impact. For the first time, Ethan felt a spark of hope. But the second hunter was faster. He raised his weapon, aiming at Ethan. A blue beam shot past, grazing his arm and burning his sleeve. Ethan cried out, stumbling but refusing to fall. His fear turned into raw determination. He dove behind a tree, lifted his rifle, and aimed. His hands shook, but he pulled the trigger. The old gun thundered, the sound echoing across the forest. The bullet struck the hunter's shoulder, sparks flying as the alien staggered back. The armor held, but the shot bought Ethan precious seconds. The hunter roared in anger, charging toward him. Ethan sprinted toward the barn, branches whipping his face, his breath ragged. He knew he couldn't hold them off forever. Inside the barn, Seraphina sensed the danger closing in. She forced herself to stand, leaning against the wooden wall. She whispered words of power, her hands glowing brighter, trying to shield her unborn child. She wanted to run, to help, but her body was too weak. Suddenly, Ethan burst through the barn door, panting, sweat dripping down his face. "They're coming," he shouted. "We have to move." But before he could say more, the barn wall exploded inward. The remaining hunter stepped through, towering over them, weapon glowing with lethal energy. His clicking voice filled the room, a sound of victory. Ethan raised his rifle again, but the hunter swatted it away like a toy. The boy stumbled back, crashing into the hay. The hunter aimed his weapon at Seraphina. Her eyes widened, her body trembling. She wrapped her arms around her stomach, ready to shield her child with her life. Ethan's gaze darted around desperately. His hands found a broken lantern lying on the floor. Without thinking, he grabbed it, smashed it against the wall, and flames spread quickly through the dry hay. Smoke rose, filling the air. The hunter snarled, distracted by the sudden fire. Ethan used the moment, leaping forward and ramming the lantern's burning frame against the alien's arm. The hunter growled, his weapon clattering to the ground. "Run!" Ethan shouted, grabbing Seraphina's hand. She leaned on him, her steps weak but determined. Together, they stumbled out of the burning barn, the night air rushing into their lungs. Behind them, the hunter roared in fury, flames spreading fast. Forcing him to retreat, they collapsed on the grass outside, coughing, their chests rising and falling with exhaustion. The forest around them glowed red from the burning barn. For a moment, silence returned. Seraphina looked at Ethan, her silver eyes filled with disbelief. "You fought them. You risked everything." Ethan wiped the sweat from his brow, his hands trembling. "I told you," he said softly, "I'm not leaving you." Above them, the night sky shimmered with faint stars. But Ethan knew the hunters weren't finished. They would come again. And next time, he might not be so lucky. Still, as he looked at Seraphina, weak but alive, he felt something stronger than fear. A determination he had never known before. The dangerous pursuit had only just begun. The fire from the barn still glowed behind them, crackling as smoke curled into the sky. Ethan sat on the damp grass, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his forehead. Beside him, Lady Seraphina leaned against a tree, her silver skin faintly shining in the moonlight. She held her stomach tightly, breathing hard, as if every breath was a battle. For a moment, neither spoke. The only sounds were the forest insects and the distant roar of flames. Ethan rubbed his aching arms, replaying every second of the fight in his head. He had almost died. She had almost died. Yet somehow, they were still alive. Finally, Seraphina's soft voice broke the silence. "Why did you not run?" Her glowing eyes studied him, full of both wonder and confusion. "You could have escaped. Saved yourself." Ethan looked down, pulling at the dirt with his fingers. "I couldn't. You needed help. And you're—" He paused, searching for the right word. "You're carrying a life." "I couldn't just walk away." Seraphine's lips trembled. In her world, beings rarely helped without expecting something in return. Power, wealth, favors, everything came with a price. But this boy had nothing. He was fragile, young, poor. And yet, he stood against death for her. "You are strange for a human." She whispered. Ethan gave a small, tired laugh. "People have told me that before." He looked at her more closely now. The glow of her skin, the way her eyes caught the moonlight. The way she held her unborn child, it was like something out of a dream. But she was real. And she was scared. "You should rest," Ethan said gently. "We'll move when it's safe." He helped her shift into a more comfortable position against the tree. His hands were rough, his movements clumsy, but his care was genuine. Serafina closed her eyes for a moment, her body relaxing slightly. "Tell me about you," she said suddenly, her voice soft. Ethan hesitated. "There's not much to tell." "Tell me," she insisted. He sighed, looking up at the stars peeking through the clouds. "My name is Ethan. I live with my mom. She's sick. Really sick. I do small jobs, whatever I can, to buy her medicine. It's never enough, but I try." His voice cracked slightly, though he quickly swallowed the emotion. "I don't have a father. He died years ago. Since then, it's just been me and her." Serafina listened quietly. Every word touched her heart more deeply than she expected. She came from wealth beyond imagination, golden halls, ships that crossed galaxies, servants at her command. Yet she had never felt the warmth of such selfless devotion. A boy with nothing still gave everything for his mother. "You carry a heavy burden," she said softly. Ethan shrugged. "It's what you do for family." She smiled faintly. "I envy that. In my world, family is often just a tool. Bloodlines, heirs, power. Rarely love." Her hand stroked her stomach gently. "That is why I ran. I wanted my child to be born safe, not as a pawn in endless wars." Ethan's eyes softened. "Then you made the right choice." For the first time, Serafina let herself relax. She leaned her head back against the tree, her hair falling around her glowing face. She looked fragile, but for a moment she looked almost human too. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the night sounds. Ethan stayed awake, watching the trees, his body tense. He couldn't allow the hunters to find them again, as dawn's first light painted the forest in shades of gold. Serafina stirred. She opened her eyes and found Ethan still sitting beside her, his rifle across his knees, his eyes heavy but alert. "You did not sleep," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. Couldn't risk it. Her heart warmed, a feeling unfamiliar but comforting. She reached out, her glowing fingers brushing his hand lightly. "You are brave, Ethan. Braver than warriors I have known." Ethan felt heat rush to his face, but he didn't pull away. He wasn't used to praise, especially from someone like her. Before either could say more, Serafina suddenly gasped. Pain shot across her body and she clutched her stomach tightly. Ethan panicked, moving closer. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice sharp with worry. She breathed heavily, her face tightening. The child, too soon. The stress. Ethan's heart dropped. He didn't know anything about alien births, but he could see her pain was real. "What do I do? Tell me what to do." Serafina struggled to calm her breathing. "We must find shelter. A safe place. Somewhere hidden." Ethan looked around desperately. The forest was too exposed. The barn was gone. Hunters could return at any moment. He thought fast, remembering an old storm shelter deep in the woods, something his father had once built long ago. It wasn't much, but it was hidden underground. "I know a place," he said quickly. "Can you walk?" Serafina nodded weakly. Ethan helped her up, his arms steady around her. She leaned on him heavily, but together they moved through the forest. Every step felt urgent. Every shadow felt like danger. When they finally reached the old shelter, Ethan pulled open the rusty metal door hidden under leaves. The inside was dark and damp, but safe. He guided her down carefully, laying her on an old cot. Seraphine's breathing steadied slightly, though her body was still weak. She looked at him with shining eyes. "You saved me again, Ethan. Why?" He looked at her, his voice steady and honest. "Because someone has to. And right now, that someone is me." Seraphine's heart tightened at his words. In this boy, she saw something her world had forgotten: kindness without demand, courage without reward. The bond between them grew stronger, unspoken but undeniable. They were no longer just a frightened alien and a poor human boy. They were partners in survival, tied by trust, danger, and something even deeper, forming quietly in the shadows of fear. And as the morning sun rose over the forest, Ethan knew one truth: he wasn't just protecting her anymore. He was protecting a future that might change everything. The underground shelter was dark and cold, its stone walls dripping with moisture. Ethan knelt beside Lady Serafina, his hands shaking as he tried to make her comfortable on the old cot. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dim light, but sweat covered her face. She was breathing fast, clutching her stomach tightly. Ethan's panic rose. "What's happening to you?" he asked, his voice trembling. Seraphine's voice came weak but clear. "The child. It's coming. Too soon." Ethan froze. His heart hammered in his chest. He had never even helped deliver a human baby. And now he was supposed to help an alien woman give birth to the heir of a galactic empire. His throat went dry. I don't know what to do," he admitted honestly. Serafina grabbed his wrist, her glowing eyes locking onto his. "You must try. The child cannot wait." Ethan swallowed hard. He nodded, forcing himself to stay calm. He remembered what his mother once told him. In moments of fear, focus on what you can do, not what you can't. He quickly searched the shelter. There was an old blanket, some rusted tools, and a half-empty jug of water. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. He returned to Seraphine's side, wiping the sweat from her forehead with the cloth. "Just breathe. You're going to be fine," he said, though his voice shook. Outside, the forest was silent, but only for a moment. A distant hum broke the stillness, low at first, but slowly growing louder. Ethan froze. His blood turned cold. He knew that sound. Drones. The hunters had returned. Serafina heard it too. Her eyes widened in terror, but she clenched her teeth. "We cannot run now," she whispered. "The child must be born." Ethan's mind raced. The hunters were closing in, and they had no weapons, no time, no place left to hide. The only option was to protect her here, in this fragile shelter. While she brought new life into the world, he tightened his grip on the rifle, then turned back to her. "I'll hold them off. No matter what, I'll keep you and your child safe." Her glowing hand reached for his, squeezing weakly. "Ethan, you are more than you believe." Before he could answer, her body convulsed with pain, and she cried out. Ethan jumped to her side, torn between staying and fighting. But at that moment, he chose her. Minutes passed like hours. Serafina screamed as the child pressed into the world. Ethan tried to follow her instructions, doing his best to guide the birth. His hands shook, his heart pounded. But he refused to give up. Then, amid the pain and fear, a sound broke through the air, soft, fragile, but powerful, the cry of a newborn. Ethan stared, his eyes wide with awe. A tiny being lay in his hands, glowing faintly, its skin a blend of human softness and alien shimmer. Its small fingers curled around his thumb, and Ethan felt tears sting his eyes. "You did it," he whispered. Handing the child to Serafina, she cradled her baby against her chest. Her glowing eyes filled with both exhaustion and joy. "My son," she whispered. The air. Alive. For one precious moment, the world was quiet, filled only with the soft cries of new life. But then the shelter door shuddered violently. A deep metallic thud echoed through the underground room. Dust rained from the ceiling. Ethan's blood turned to ice. The hunters had found them another crash. The door bent inward, glowing blue as an energy weapon cut through its hinges. Serafina held her child close, fear flashing across her face. Ethan grabbed the rifle and stood in front of them, his body shaking but his resolve unshaken. He pointed the gun at the door, even though he knew it wouldn't be enough. The door exploded inward. Smoke and fire filled the entrance. Two hunters stepped inside, their armor gleaming in the light of their weapons. The drones hovered behind them, red eyes glowing like predators ready to strike. The lead hunter pointed at Serafina and spoke in his clicking alien tongue. His meaning was clear. "Give us the child." Ethan's chest tightened, but he planted his feet firmly in front of Serafina. He raised his rifle, his voice breaking with fury. "You'll have to go through me first." The hunters laughed, their voices metallic and cold. One of them raised his weapon, aiming at the boy. Serafina cried out. "Ethan, no." But Ethan stood tall, his body trembling yet unyielding. He was just a boy, a poor human with nothing but courage. Yet in that moment, he looked like a warrior. The hunter's weapon glowed brighter, preparing to fire, and then the sky outside roared. The ground shook as a massive ship descended, its engines screaming like thunder. Light bathed the forest, blinding the hunters. A deep, commanding voice boomed through the air. "Enough." The hunters froze, turning toward the sky, their weapons lowered. Ethan blinked, his heart pounding. Through the smoke, a tall figure emerged from the massive ship. His armor gleamed with gold and black, his eyes burning like fire. It was Lord Valiant, the tycoon himself. He looked at the hunters, then at Ethan, standing in front of his wife and newborn child. His eyes softened, and for the first time in his long, ruthless life, tears filled them. The underground shelter trembled as the roar of engines shook the earth. The hunters, moments away from killing Ethan, froze in place. Their glowing eyes turned upward, their sharp, clicking voices filled with alarm. Ethan stood in front of Serafina and the newborn, his rifle still raised, though his hands shook violently. He looked up through the shattered doorway and saw it, a colossal ship hovered above the forest, its black and gold body shimmering under the rising dawn. Light swept across the trees, pushing away the shadows. The very ground vibrated with its power. The hunters staggered back, exchanging hurried words in their alien tongue. Their drones flickered nervously, like insects caught in a storm. Then, from the ship's open ramp, a tall figure descended slowly, each step echoing with command. His armor gleamed like polished obsidian, lined with glowing golden veins. His presence was suffocating, his aura heavy with authority and power. This was Lord Valiant, master of the Orion trade empire, feared and respected across galaxies. Ethan felt his breath catch. He had imagined someone powerful, but this man was more than that. He looked like a force of nature. His eyes glowed faintly, sharp and unyielding. But when they landed on the hunters, they blazed like fire. "Touch her again," Valiant's deep voice thundered, "and your lives end here." The hunters dropped to one knee immediately, bowing their heads in fear. Yet even in submission, their weapons remained close. Ethan tightened his grip on the rifle, stepping protectively in front of Serafina and the baby. His instincts screamed at him to run, to bow, to hide, but he didn't move. Lord Valyon's gaze finally shifted to him. The boy's clothes were torn, his arms bruised. His body trembling, but his stance was firm. His eyes burning with the will to protect. For a long moment, the two locked eyes, an alien tycoon who commanded empires, and a poor human boy who had nothing but courage. One of the hunters dared to lift his head, hissing in his alien tongue. His clawed hand reached for his weapon. But before he could even draw it, Valyon's gauntlet lit with golden energy. A beam shot forth, precise and merciless. Striking the hunter through the chest, the armored body collapsed with a crash. Sparks flying, smoke rising. The second hunter shrieked in fear and tried to retreat. Valyon didn't blink. His hand rose again, and in a flash of light, the second one was obliterated. Leaving nothing but smoldering armor, silence fell. The drones scattered into the trees, fleeing like terrified animals. Ethan lowered his rifle slowly, his chest heaving. He had faced death countless times that night, but now the real power of this world stood before him. Valyon stepped forward, his golden armor gleaming in the firelight from the destroyed barn. He stopped just a few feet from Ethan, his towering presence overwhelming. Ethan's instinct was to step aside, to let him pass, but instead, he straightened his shoulders and met the tycoon's gaze. Behind him, Serafina spoke weakly. Valyon. Her voice carried both relief and exhaustion. Valyon's hard expression softened instantly. His eyes darted past Ethan, landing on his wife and the tiny newborn in her arms. For a moment, the fierce Lord of Empires was no longer a figure of power, but a husband and a father. He stepped closer, kneeling beside Serafina. His gauntlet hand touched her cheek gently, his eyes shimmering with rare emotion. "You are safe now," he whispered. The baby cooed softly, its faint glow reflecting in Valyon's eyes. His lips trembled. He had faced wars, betrayals, and countless battles, but nothing had ever shaken him like the sight of his child alive. For the first time in years, tears welled in his eyes. Ethan stood silently, unsure what to do. He felt like an outsider in a sacred moment, yet he couldn't ignore the way Valyon kept glancing back at him. Finally, Valyon rose to his full height and turned fully to the boy. His voice was deep, but no longer sharp. "You protected them. My wife, my heir, with nothing but your human hands." Ethan swallowed hard. "I just did what anyone would have done." Valyon's eyes narrowed, studying him. "No, many would have run. Many would have traded her life for their own safety. But you stood." For a long moment, Valyon said nothing more. Then, unexpectedly, he removed one of his golden gauntlets. He extended his bare hand to Ethan. A rare gesture of respect from a man who bowed to no one. Ethan hesitated, his heart thudding. Then he slowly reached out, gripping the tycoon's hand. It was warm, strong, steady. "You have earned a debt that cannot be measured in wealth," Valyon said firmly. "Name what you desire, human boy, and it shall be yours." Ethan blinked, stunned. His mind raced with possibilities rich as power, a chance to leave Earth behind. But then he thought of his mother, lying weak and pale at home. Waiting for medicine that was never enough. He tightened his grip slightly, his voice quiet but steady. "I only want one thing." Valyon tilted his head. "Speak. Save my mother's life." The words hung in the air, simple yet powerful. For a moment, Valyon was silent. He had expected greed, ambition, demands. But this boy, who had risked his life for strangers, asked for nothing but his mother's survival. The tycoon's throat tightened. His eyes, sharp as blades, softened again. He turned his face slightly away, hiding the tears that escaped before he could stop them. When he finally looked back at Ethan, his voice shook with something no one had ever heard from him before: gratitude. "It will be done," he promised. "By the stars, by the Empire, by everything I command. Your mother will live." The forest was quiet again, though the smell of smoke and fire still lingered. The hunters were gone, their threat erased by Lord Valion's sheer power. The massive ship hovered above the trees like a silent guardian, its lights casting a golden glow over the clearing inside the underground shelter. Serafina rested with her newborn child in her arms, her silver skin faintly shimmering in the dim light. She looked weak, but peaceful now, safe at last. Ethan stood nearby, still clutching his old rifle, though his arms ached and his clothes were torn. But his eyes were fixed not on the alien mother or her child, but on the towering figure in front of him. Lord Valion. The tycoon had repeated his words, his deep voice still echoing in the boy's mind. "Your mother will live." Ethan swallowed hard. He wasn't sure if he had heard correctly. "You mean it? You'll really save her?" His voice cracked, raw with hope and fear. Valion's golden eyes softened. "Yes, human. After what you have done, it is the least I can give. You carried no greed in your request, only love. For that, I am bound." With a simple gesture, Valion raised his wrist device. Holographic panels appeared, glowing symbols swirling in alien language. His voice commanded in sharp tones. And from the hovering ship above, a medical pod detached, descending gracefully into the clearing. The pod's doors opened, revealing a chamber filled with glowing light and strange instruments. "This is a med pod," Valion explained. "It can cure sicknesses that your world has not even named. Your mother will be healed within hours." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His chest tightened, eyes stinging with sudden tears. For years, he had fought against hopelessness, scraping every coin to buy weak medicine, watching his mother fade. And now, this man, this alien lord, was offering what no doctor on Earth could ever give. "Take me to her," Ethan said, his voice trembling with urgency. Valion gave a slight nod. "Bring her here. She will be placed inside the pod. My ship's healers will oversee the process." Ethan didn't wait. He sprinted toward the edge of the forest, his legs moving faster than they ever had. For the first time in years, he felt true hope burning inside him. Hours later, Ethan returned, carrying his frail mother in his arms. She was thin, her skin pale, her breathing shallow. Her eyes flickered open weakly, confused at the sight of towering ships and glowing alien figures. "Ethan? What is this?" she whispered. "Don't worry, Mom," he said softly, tears streaming down his face. "You're going to be okay now." The medpod's doors slid open, and with Valion's help, Ethan gently placed his mother inside. The pod closed, filling with radiant blue light. Strange symbols danced across its surface, the sound of soft humming filling the air. Ethan pressed his hands against the glass, watching with wide eyes. His mother's body glowed faintly under the alien light, her chest rising more steadily with each passing second. Her wrinkles softened, her color returned, and her breathing steadied. Minutes stretched like eternity, but finally the pod hissed open. Ethan rushed forward, his heart pounding. His mother sat up slowly, blinking in confusion. Her eyes were clear, her cheeks full of color again. She touched her chest, breathing deeply. For the first time in years, she felt no pain. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice strong again. "I feel." Alive, Ethan broke down, wrapping his arms around her. He cried openly, his body shaking with relief. "You're okay. You're really okay." Behind them, Valion watched quietly, his expression unreadable. But in his heart, something stirred. He had seen countless humans before weak, selfish, greedy. But this boy was different. His courage, his humility, his love. It was rare, even among Valian's own people. Serafina, holding her newborn child, spoke softly. "You see, my husband. This human is proof that strength does not come only from power or wealth. Sometimes, it comes from the heart." Valian gave a slow nod. His gaze returned to Ethan. "You have done more than save my family. You have reminded me of something I had forgotten." Ethan looked up, wiping his tears. "What's that?" "That even the smallest act of kindness can change destinies," Valian said gravely. He stepped forward, placing a heavy hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You saved my wife. You delivered my son. You defied death to protect them. And now, you saved your mother as well. You are not just a boy anymore, Ethan. You are a protector." Ethan swallowed hard, unsure what to say. Valian straightened, his voice carrying the weight of empires. "From this day, my empire owes you a debt. Should you ever call upon me, the stars themselves will answer in my name." Ethan blinked, stunned. He had never imagined his small life would matter to anyone beyond his town. Yet here he stood, with a galactic tycoon promising him the loyalty of worlds, as dawn broke fully over the forest. Golden lights spilling across the trees. The strange group stood together, an alien lord, his glowing wife and newborn heir, and a human boy with his newly healed mother. Ethan looked up at the sky, at the massive ship that could carry him 2 stars he had never dreamed of. For the first time, the universe didn't feel far away. It felt close, like it was calling him. His journey had begun with fear and danger, but now it ended with hope. He had saved a life, changed destinies, and gained a bond that crossed the stars. And though he did not know what future awaited him, one truth was clear: one story was far from over.